There's never going to be a scenario where I have too much of Joe to share. I think it's impossible to summarize a life and a person, and especially as a person who just lives so large as Joe. He truly is larger than life. And we're never going to be able to fully summarize and share. But having as much as we can to remember him and to share with the kids, I think will mean everything to us. Having the video, having the song, having cards, pictures, photos, as much as we can. It will never replace his physical presence, but I think it will provide comfort for all of us.
Welcome to the Inheritance of Hope podcast. Every day, 562 children lose a parent to terminal illness. They shouldn't have to face that alone. You can pretend to avoid the painful realities of illness, grief, and death, or you can deal with the real stuff in caring community. On the podcast, people in Inheritance of Hope's community share raw, personal stories of pain, trials, and the shadow of death, which are also stories of joy in terminal illness. Find more Inheritance of Hope community at inheritanceofhope.org. Okay, well, welcome to the Inheritance of Hope podcast. Why don't you introduce yourself to the listeners?
My name is Joe Quirarte. I am a 20-year Army veteran, just retired in September of 2024. And 2 months after I retired, I was diagnosed with glioblastoma, a terminal brain tumor.
And I am Ashleigh Quirarte, Joe's wife, former school counselor turned stay-at-home mom, caregiver, and coordinator of all things for Joe and our 3-year-old son and 1-year-old daughter.
Well, I'm so glad to have you on the podcast today. Actually, funny enough, you were, I think, our second family to do a legacy song. So you kind of were our guinea pig family to do that. And actually, when you said, hey, can I send over pictures for the song? I was like, that's a great idea. We should actually start collecting pictures from every family. You kind of helped shape that program,
That's awesome.
Which, it's kind of brand new with this podcast. So I'm so excited to dive in because I feel like I know you. I feel like I know some of your inside jokes because of the legacy song. And it's so funny because sometimes I'll be going about my day and I'll be like humming a song. I'm like, what is that? And I'm like, oh, that's a legacy song. And sometimes it's yours or sometimes it's another family's. But what I would love to hear your journey. Just kind of take that and run with it however much you want to share. Like, what has living with illness looked like, or what has your story been in a longer form than what you just shared?
So like I said, I retired from the Army in September of 2024, and we flew to Michigan to visit her mom for a month, and then we flew to California, like 20 minutes south of San Francisco, to visit my family and friends, like my side of family and friends. And that's when I had a seizure, and it turns out that an MRI showed that I had the glioblastoma. And so we were just ending one chapter of our lives, retiring from the Army, and we were getting ready to start applying for jobs as civilians for the first time. And that all came to a screeching halt when we found out that I had this glioblastoma tumor. Luckily, as my doctor put it, you got the worst possible diagnosis at the best possible location, because UCSF is like one of the world leaders in glioblastoma treatments, and they were saying like UCLA, UCSF, and Duke have the most proven track records of keeping people alive the longest with the best quality of life after a glioblastoma diagnosis anywhere in the world. Like, those are the top 3 facilities. And so we as a family made a decision that this 1 month visit was going to turn into, we're actually now house hunting here, to try to stay as close as possible to UCSF. And so it's turned everything around in our lives. We had all these plans of applying for federal jobs in Asia, or wherever our careers took us. We were ready to go. We met in Hawaii, and then we got stationed in Germany. While we were in Germany, we visited over 25 countries, and so we just love travel. I got the travel bug from her, and but yeah, it's changed everything, the whole trajectory of what we thought our lives were gonna look like. So now the doctors are telling me that with my particular variant of glioblastoma, I'm looking at about 3 to 5 years left to live. But I recently got approved for this device. I'm on a beanie right now, but it's a device called Optune, and it goes on your head and it sends like pulsating electrical currents through your brain, and it actually kills fast multiplying tumor cells while leaving slow growing brain cells, like healthy brain cells, alone. And so while my diagnosis is still terminal, this machine is FDA approved to add months, if not years, to that 3 to 5 year diagnosis. And so it's a little inconvenient to wear around all the time, but like I said, I'll dress up as Bozo the Clown if it means that I get to have more time with my kids. And thank God for this woman right here, because between chemo and radiation and doctor's visits and pills and then I had a kidney issue and she has been keeping our family running smoothly. It's kind of cliche to say like I can't do this without you. I literally couldn't do this without her. She's definitely been our rock of the family and just pours love and dedication into everything. So I love you.
I love you too.
Man, wow, what a journey. I mean, I'm sure as you were approaching 20 years retirement, I can only imagine the dreams, the next steps, the planning and excitement that came, only to quickly need to pivot. Yeah, what were some of the things that you were hoping for and dreaming for that you've now had to pivot? And what are some of the things that you've learned along the way?
Yeah, so I think our biggest thing was, we were just going to take this time, this couple months, and really just visit family. We'd been living in Germany for 5 years. So both of our kids were born there, and we really just wanted our moms in particular to have a chance to spend some long time with our kids. And then that next phase was supposed to be, moving somewhere else and starting new jobs. And we had hoped to go to Asia to continue working as federal civilians and do more travel there. And so when we left Germany, actually our entire house was packed up and sent to long-term storage with the military. And we were at my mother-in-law's house when Joe got diagnosed. And so what has started as a 1-month trip to my mother-in-law's house in the Bay Area, we've now been living here for almost 6 months. And then my mom moved from Michigan in to help us as well. And so now we have 3 generations living in a home. We still don't have our household goods because, there's nowhere to put them in my mother-in-law's house. And so it really felt like when Joe got diagnosed that everything just came to a screeching halt. And we were kind of just in crisis mode for so many months. And then now we're kind of slowly starting to find a new rhythm and completely reevaluating like, okay, what is the rest of Joe's life going to look like? How does that look like for me and the kids? And trying to just kind of come up with this new normal of where we're going to live and how we want to spend our time going forward as a family.
Yeah. Man, so you said you had a seizure and then that's kind of what triggered or, got you into the hospital and diagnosed. Was there anything to hint at any problems before that seizure?
Nothing. So I remember I was in the living room and I started feeling a little dizzy, just sitting down, and then I started feeling nauseous and I was like, oh man, I'm going to go to the bathroom. Like maybe I ate something bad or something. And I start walking down the hallway to go to the bathroom and I'm starting to lose my balance. Like I was having to prop myself up like on the wall just to get down the hallway. And I don't remember this part, but Ashleigh said that I was starting to say things that didn't make any sense, and so I just remember telling her hey, something's not right, something's wrong. And that's kind of the last thing I remember is telling my wife hey, something is not right. I don't feel right. Something's weird. And what it was, come to find out, it was the brain tumor putting pressure on my brain.
Wow.
And just really messing things up in there, throwing off my balance, throwing off my speech, making me feel nauseous. And then after that, you'd have to ask her what happened because I don't remember much of it.
Yeah, so we ended up calling 911 and the wonderful firefighters and paramedics came out. And Joe was complaining of a metallic taste in his mouth. So the firefighters, nobody's first inclination is, oh, this healthy 38-year-old.
Good looking.
Yeah, very good looking. Recently retired soldier has, a terminal illness. The firefighters thought that he had the flu, actually. They were like, the flu's been going around. This was November, and the metallic taste in his mouth, they were like, oh, he might just be a little dehydrated. And come to find out, a metallic taste in your mouth can sometimes be a precursor to a seizure. And so it was almost bedtime. My mother-in-law was here. They were like, we're just going to take him to the hospital just in case, but they're probably going to give him some fluids and he'll be home tonight. And so my mother-in-law said, why don't you put the kids to bed? I'll take Joe to the hospital. I'll wait with him, and then we'll be back in a couple hours. So I said, okay, great. She followed the ambulance. They took him to a local hospital. It took me, we had at the time an 11-month-old and a newly turned 3-year-old. And so it took me a good hour and a half to put him to bed. And by the time I did that, I looked at my phone, which had been in the living room, and my mother-in-law had called me a bunch of times and sent a text that said, hey, call me right away. And I was like, what? At this point, still thinking Joe was getting some fluids and probably had the flu. And I called her, and over the course of just that hour and a half, Joe had had a seizure in the hospital, and was actually intubated.
Whoa.
Yeah. And
Wow.
to go from think your husband has the flu to he's intubated and hearing the doctor say the next couple hours are going to really determine how he does from here. And so he was, essentially in a medically induced coma and ended up waking up the next day. And we had no idea what was going on. At this point, doctors thought that there was something going on with the brain. They did a CT scan, and Joe had recently had some dental work done. And so their first guess was that maybe he had had a dental abscess that had spread to the brain. And at that point, we're nervous that it's anything to do with the brain, but the neurologist was, pretty confident that, okay, an abscess will go in, we'll do brain surgery, but we can get it out and that'll be the end of it. And then we did the MRI to get some more information. And that's when the neurosurgeon came in and said, hey, the MRI, we think it's glioblastoma. So the first neurosurgeon that we saw came in, and I'll never forget this. We were there and, we were kind of laughing. Joe was being discharged from the hospital, so we were optimistic. And he said, hey, you guys are going to want to sit down. And we were like, okay. And so we sat down and he said, based on the MRI, we think it's glioblastoma, and we think Joe probably only has 12 to 18 months to live. And I think when you're faced with such a shocking diagnosis like that, it was like, you hear people say time stood still, and that's really what it felt like. Like it just was so shocking. You never expect to hear that your healthy 38-year-old husband is going to die soon. And our cousin, who has been a wonderful support for us throughout this whole thing, I just remember feeling her squeeze my hand next to me. And then I just had this overwhelming feeling of, oh my gosh. And I just went and I sat next to Joe on the bed. And it's undescribable. It's undescribable what that feels like. And in a moment, just every hope, plan, dream you had for your life screeches to a halt and completely changes. And we have since meeting with that first neurosurgeon, have gotten second, third, fourth, fifth opinion, who have all kind of refused to put a timeline on Joe. And that has been really helpful for us because there is a lot of information out there about glioblastoma, but Joe is significantly younger than the average age of diagnosis. He's healthier. There have been new developments in the field just in the past couple of years, and we've since learned how important mindset is. And, we refuse to believe that Joe isn't going to be here in a year. We live our lives and we plan for things, and that's been instrumental to us. We still have fun. We have things to look forward to. We are not living our lives like he's dying. We are living every day as two parents to two young kids, and we take each day as it comes. And that's, I feel like, the only way we're able to get through this.
Yeah, we're not living the Tim McGraw song quite yet,
Yes.
Yeah. Not going skydiving.
No. Still not going skydiving. No. Yeah, no, like that first doctor, it turns out he is a neurosurgeon, but he is not specifically a brain tumor doctor. And so I don't know if he Googled glioblastoma and just read me off the Wikipedia page or what, but he said, you guys have about a year to a year, or you guys, he said, you have about a year and a half to live. And obviously we're in panic mode now, right? Like, he was like, yeah, I can schedule you as early as Tuesday and we can take this thing out of you. And you're looking at about a year and a half left to live. And then we started calling around. We're like, there's got to be better treatments, there's got to be something else out there. And it turns out that's when we found out that Duke, UCSF, and UCLA are leading the world in glioblastoma research, treatments, longevity, and quality of life. So we just happened to live 25 minutes away from UCSF. So we called them and we said, hey, here's what's going on. And so we met with Dr. Berger and Dr. Theo, and they said essentially like that first doctor is incorrect, right? Like he's kind of giving you general statistics for 65-year-old plus, patients. And they assured me, they're like, hey, we are leading the world in this kind of thing. And we have patients that are kept alive for years after this, right? Like we have some glioblastoma, we don't know what variant I had yet because they hadn't taken it out and done the pathology and all that. But they said we have people surviving 5, 10, 15 years with this. And so I was like, wow, that was a huge relief, which, I mean, when it says, when a doctor tells you have 5 to 10 years left and you're 38 years old, initially it doesn't sound great. But after you've been told you have 1 year, 5 to 10 sounds great.
Sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
And so that was a big relief. I'm glad we decided to switch to go to UCSF. They are specifically glioblastoma and brain tumor doctors. And Dr. Berger at UCSF, who performed my surgery, actually pioneered the craniotomy technique used to take this thing out of my head. It was slightly larger than a golf ball, and it was right above my right ear over here. Luckily, that part of your brain doesn't control motor functions, speech, arm and extremity movements and all that. So it was a pretty safe surgery to take that out. But, this glioblastoma, it's been known to pop up on the brain stem, on the spine, some inoperable places. So as bad of a diagnosis as it was actually, I got lucky that it grew where it did because it was relatively safe to take out without too many consequences.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joe had fabulous neurosurgeons who were able to do what's called a super resection. So they took out all the tumor plus a little bit extra. And then he had a fabulous radiologist. He's done radiology and chemotherapy. And for the most part has tolerated all of that really well. And so it's a very unique place to be when, you or your spouse has a terminal illness, but they look good.
Right.
And, we've heard that so many times from people. I mean, I've always thought you've looked good.
Want to go to dinner tonight?
We've heard that from so many people. Like, he looks so good. He sounds so good. And it's bittersweet because I'm so thankful that he is, of course, that we're still able to lead our normal, quote unquote, lives.
Our new normal.
New normal. Yeah, new normal. But also he's not good. So it's trying to kind of balance that and remain hopeful and optimistic, but also realistic. Just a lot of different mixed feelings that I feel like only people in this space can truly understand how that feels and what that looks like.
I think the weirdest part about like she was just alluding to, I don't feel like I have a terminal brain tumor, right? Like I mean, I'm a little bit more tired than I used to be. I take naps in the middle of the day and a little bit harder to wake up in the daytime. And that's a combination of, the cancer and the drugs that I'm on, but I don't feel like I have a terminal brain tumor. We still take our kids out in the backyard and to the beach and play. We take them to birthday parties. Life feels kind of normal. Like I don't feel like I have 3 to 5 years left to live. What our diagnosis was in November of 2024, and here we are in May of 2025. It still almost doesn't feel real.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm dying. It's the strangest feeling. I almost wish that there were like more symptoms that to make this real. Because sometimes I'm like, was this all a dream? I'll wake up in the morning feeling great. I'll play with my son. I get him ready for school in the morning. I drop him off. We lead relatively normal lives, you know. And unfortunately, this is a terminal, you know, diagnosis. So this new machine that I'm wearing will hold off a tumor for a little bit. And when the tumor does grow back, which this one does 100% of the time, glioblastoma, we do have options. You know, if it grows back in the same spot, especially this is like real safe spot, 80% of the time these things grow back exactly where they were taken out of. So if it does grow back there, then another resection to, you know, removal surgery is an option. But eventually this thing is going to catch up to me. And we don't know if that's in 1, 3, 5 years, you know, but like she said, we're just trying to live life as normal as possible, especially for the kids. Take them to the beach, take them to the park, you know, take them to birthday parties, preschool and all that. And, but yeah.
Yeah, Joe has an MRI every 2 to 3 months. And so we've kind of started to experience what some people call like scan anxiety. Because, you know, it is coming back. We just don't know when. So every MRI, we're like, is this going to be it? Or if any of his symptoms change a little bit, we're like, is this an indication that it's back? And so sometimes it kind of just feels like we're living from one scan to the next and trying to create this sense of normalcy in between.
Yeah. My goodness. Talk about a roller coaster. Like from the beginning, thinking it's the flu and then almost being discharged and then given this like terminal sentence almost, and then some hope, and then the scan anxiety.
Yeah.
What would you tell other people now that you're, you know, like months into this, who are maybe just starting their journey and feeling that tension and the anxiety and the hope, to kind of a tug of war?
Yeah, I think I joined a glioblastoma like support group on Facebook that had like thousands of people in it. And I think one of the first things I read on there, it has really stuck with me. And that was somebody posted something to the effect of, there are people who die instantly and unexpectedly in car accidents every day. You know, they have no opportunity to get their affairs in order, to say their goodbyes, to make, you know, memories and all that. And so being told that I have 3 to 5 years, while that isn't ideal, I have a chance to do all 3 of those. So I actually feel in an odd way, I do feel blessed that, you know, because most people don't know when their time is. I do. Generally speaking, barring any kind of new drugs or treatments or whatever that can extend that out. But the fact that I know a general timeline has actually been a little bit comforting in a strange way, you know, like, because, you know, like I'll never forget the doctor told us, you know, our radiation oncologist told us with your specific variant, you're looking at about 3 to 5 years left to live, because glioblastoma is one of the most aggressive brain tumors. And I have one of the most aggressive variants of that brain tumor. And so we were just kind of like stuck in our chairs for a few minutes, just crying and hugging and all that. And then we booked tickets to Hawaii. And it's like, you know what? Hey, let's wow. You know, we booked tickets to Disneyland. We, you know, went to the Great Wolf Lodge. We, you know, like, so we're just going to make as many memories as possible. And I consider ourselves blessed that we have a chance to get our affairs in order and make memories and all that. So while it does stink, you know, that we have that I have possibly 3 to 5 years left, I also have a chance to you know, make some memories and get our affairs in order and make sure that we're financially okay. My number one concern now is making sure that my family is set up for success once I do pass, you know. And so we've been focusing on that, especially financially, and you know, we're living with my mother-in-law right now, so we're house hunting, which is not easy in California. But yeah, so that would be my one bit of advice to anybody who's just starting this journey, is once you get over the shock of it all, you know, and there is a shock period, try to count your blessings, you know, like you get an opportunity to get your affairs in order and to make memories and to say goodbyes and to do all of that. And so that's the silver lining that I've found.
Inheritance of Hope was founded on May 21st, 2007. Each May, we celebrate our founding with National Legacy Day, a day focused on legacy and being intentional. We all have a legacy that is being built each day, and we invite you to be intentional with yours. Each month, we provide a free family resource that helps you to be intentional. Simply sign up and you'll receive this resource in your inbox every month. Visit nationallegacyday.org/resources to learn more.
And I think for the caregiver, the spouse, my biggest piece of advice would be create your village. And sometimes that's intrinsic. We've been lucky that we've had a lot of amazing family and friends in the area. Not everybody has that. That's a big reason. Another big reason why we decided to stay in the Bay Area is because this is where our people are at. But if you don't have that, create that. I've found so much comfort and camaraderie in different online Zoom support groups, both that are brain tumor specific and that are just partners who also have a young child, who have a spouse or a partner with brain cancers. And I get different things from both of those groups. And then our friends and family, I have certain friends who I know that I can reach out any time of day and that they'll hear me out and listen to me vent. And then I have other friends and family that I know if we need help cleaning the house or logistic help or making phone calls or trying to contact insurance companies, then those are my go-to people.
Yeah.
And so I think that physical village, as much as that psychological village, is just so important because it's already hard to be a parent with young kids and to have your village. That in of itself is, just two small kids day in and day out. It's taxing. And then add in, such a complex medical diagnosis, and it's just downright overwhelming. And so you have to have people that you can lean on, either, that are your family or your created family, and that are either in person or virtual, that can help you because you can't do it alone.
Yeah, I feel like whenever anyone goes through hardship, doing it alone makes it so much harder.
Yeah.
That's just an additional burden to carry, which if you have people to kind of carry the load with you, that makes all the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard, I think, for some people to know how to help. And it's hard for some people to be in this space. There's a lot of grief. And not everyone can be in the trenches with you, but maybe they can set up a meal train. Maybe they can start your GoFundMe. Maybe they can call the insurance companies for you. So I think it's really kind of trying to figure out what the people in your life strengths are and trying to play to those strengths. Because we have to have help. We have to.
Yeah, and it sounds like with having almost a timeline placed in front of you unwillingly, essentially, like no one wants to hear that. It sounds like your perspective has been so focused on legacy and building something that will last. And it's interesting to hear you say that too, because at Inheritance of Hope, I oversee the legacy video programs and now the podcast and the legacy songs. So all these things that are very focused on intentional storytelling and being very awake and aware to your legacy. And anytime I tell a healthy person about it, they're like, oh, that's nice, and move right along. Mm-hmm. But it's the people who have the timelines placed in front of them who are just more wide awake to the fact that every day you are building a legacy, whether you are aware of it or not. Mm-hmm. So you get to have an active choice in what legacy you're building and what you're doing. And you made a legacy video. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can you speak on your perspective on legacy building in this time?
Yeah, I think my biggest motivator is sitting right next to me. But one of my biggest motivators to do all this with the legacy song, the legacy video, and, Ashleigh has also got some cards, some happy 18th birthday, happy wedding day, happy things that I won't be around for, that I can write to my kids so she can give them to them on this birthday or this special event or this. To be honest with you, that didn't even cross my mind. I was thinking like, hey, let's record everything so that the kids have something to watch afterwards. Let's record dad playing on the beach with them or something like that. But I love this idea because my cousin Amy lost her dad when she was, I believe, 8 or 9 years old. He died by suicide, and she had no audio of him at all. She had, boxes and boxes and boxes of pictures. But we're talking the early 2000s, so there wasn't a bunch of iPhones around. Everything was getting recorded and everything. And then recently, like a couple months ago, we found some VHS tapes in my mom's garage and sent them in to get digitized. And they had a lot of videos of her dad at Christmas, or her dad at a family Christmas party or a birthday party, or on the houseboat or something like that, and she just bawled and bawled and bawled. And she goes, I have not heard my dad's voice since I was 9 years old. And so when Ashleigh said, hey, there's this thing called legacy video that the kids could watch and everything, I'm like, this is like, I don't want my kids to forget the sound of my voice, if you will. Yeah. And if the timeline is correct, that they're giving me 3 to 5 years, at best 5 years, my son is going to be 8 and my daughter is going to be right around 6, And so, even younger than when my cousin lost her dad, and she doesn't remember his voice until she saw those videos. And so I really want to leave the kids with something to hold on to. Tangible, yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I really loved the legacy video of tell me your story from growing up until how we got here now, and what do you hope for your kids? What are your dreams for your kids? And I would love for my kids to watch that one day and just have something to hold on to and know who dad was. What does dad believe in? What did dad want for us? What were his hopes and dreams and goals and everything? My hopes and dreams is just that my kids are happy and successful and respectful and respected members of society, and 49ers fans.
It's very important.
I told my wife when my son was born, I said, look, so long as you raise him as a 49ers fan, if anything happens to me, then I'm okay.
Yeah. Know that our kids are going to have so many questions. Mm-hmm. That is going to be just a given, that they're going to have so many questions, and they're going to want to know everything about their dad. They're going to want to know, what was his personality like? How did he face challenges? What were his hopes and dreams? Why did he choose you as a partner in life, Mom? And
because she's a smoke show. Look at her.
And there's never going to be a scenario where I have too much of Joe to share. I think it's impossible to summarize a life and a person, and especially as a person who just lives so large as Joe. He truly is larger than life. And we're never going to be able to fully summarize and share. But having as much as we can to remember him and to share with the kids, I think will mean everything to us. Mm-hmm. Having the video, having the song, having cards, pictures, photos, as much as we can. It will never replace his physical presence, but I think it will provide comfort for all of us.
Mm-hmm. This is a master's degree and an associate's degree. She is a lot more articulate than I am.
No, I think you worded that so beautifully. And I think people who don't have the perspective of, you're given this timeline, you have to face these things, are kind of oblivious to it until it's too late. And then you can't really recover that. So right. I can't imagine the gift that you're giving your children by doing these things, by taking them to Disney, by taking pictures and videos and making a legacy song, a legacy video. And actually, before every legacy video, we send each person a question sheet. It's 2 pages long. And those aren't just random questions. We asked young adults who lost their parent when they were young, what do you wish you knew about them? They're kind of just the obscure questions that, especially if you're little, you're never going to ask your parent, like, what was your favorite grade in elementary school? Or, all these things, they aren't thinking those things. They're thinking, I'm hungry. Can I have a snack? Or can I go outside? So to almost prepare for people, these questions are really important, and people maybe aren't asking you yet. But man, what a gift it is to answer them before people are asking, because one day people are going to want to know. Yeah. And what you two are doing is, I think, the standard, the model of how every person, diagnosis or not, should live.
All her. No, seriously, these are all her ideas. And I love the fact that she found these programs. Yeah. I do. Because like I said, when my cousin saw those videos for the first time and heard her dad's voice, she poured tears, and so I don't want to leave my kids without knowing the sound of my voice or some videos of memories of us or anything. So I'm so glad you found this program. And yeah,
we've had, luckily, a unique kind of inside perspective with our cousin and Joe's uncle, her dad passing away. She was able to tell us a lot of that. This is what I wish my dad would have been able to share with me. This is what I wish I would still have of my dad, and there's things like the coffee mug he used every day that she treasures. And so we've been able to kind of use that tragedy to kind of fuel us going forward and think, okay, what would be important to our kids? What would be important? And I think it's great to not have anything left unsaid, regardless of whether there's an illness in your family or not. I feel 100% confident that I know all of Joe's final wishes. I know how he wants to be remembered. I know what traditions are important to him, what characteristics are important to try and instill in our children. And I think that's important for everybody to kind of be mindful of and a way to live.
Yeah, my brother had a scare at work. He's an electrician in the union in San Francisco, and he had a little bit of a scare at work a couple weeks ago. He got electrocuted, and out of precaution, got brought to the hospital. Ended up being perfectly okay, but I kind of impressed upon him, like, it's good to have a will, like, because if that went bad, like, he has a fiance now and a kid on the way. And so I was like, you got to put all this on paper. Like, I would encourage perfectly healthy people to make a will. And the company that we use to make a will also, after, you get over this possession goes to this person, this possession goes to this person. They also ask you, what are your final, do you want to be buried or cremated? Where do you want to be buried? What do you want to be buried in? Do you want anyone to wear or anything special or play any special songs at your funeral or things that, like, admittedly, before my seizure, 38-year-olds don't think about, especially healthy 38-year-olds don't think about, But, then my brother, he's 8 years younger than I am. So at 30 years old, he got electrocuted at work and, thank God he was okay. But I'm like, bro, I'm not going to lie to you. If that went sideways, I don't know where you want to be buried or what you want to be buried in, or, do you have any favorite songs that you want us to play at your funeral or whatever? And I'm like, I would encourage you to make a will, especially now that you got a kid on the way and you guys are getting married soon, so I would encourage everybody to have a will, something that, so people, at a minimum, even if you have no possessions, at a minimum, so people know what your final wishes are.
One of Joe's doctors shared with us that it is always a tragedy when someone dies, but the larger tragedy is when the family doesn't know what to do next. And that really stuck with me. And as far as end-of-life care and advanced directives, that's so important, as well as life insurance. I would say if there's anyone listening, even if you're perfectly healthy, please just get life insurance, because that is such a gift to your family. And I think just can provide so much peace of mind in an otherwise very unpeaceful situation.
Right. Actually, Inheritance of Hope offers, on our website, you can go and create a will for free. You just go through the steps and then you just need to go and take it to get notarized. But anyone listening, take advantage of that, because that's there for a reason, because healthy or not, that's so important.
That's another thing about, I asked the doctor, I was very interested. I'm like, what does the end look like for me? Whenever the end does come, right? Whether it's 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, with this glioblastoma, what is it going to do to me? And he said, eventually it's going to start shutting down key functions of your body. It's going to come after your ability to move your extremities, your ability to talk, your ability to walk. Unfortunately, it will eventually come for your ability to breathe on your own, right? And so, most people towards the end up on machines. And so one of the questions that, one of the hard conversations that Ashleigh and I had to have was, when do we pull that plug? What is your wish? Because like she said, the doctor told us, the biggest tragedy is, I end up on a machine and she has no idea what my wishes are,
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, look, if I haven't asked about the 49ers or my kids in 48 hours, just pull it. It's over.
In that order?
Since the day I was born, there's not been 48 hours that go by that I don't talk about the 49ers, right? I was like, so if I have not asked about the 49ers in 48 hours,
it's time.
It's time. Just let me go,
Yeah.
And so, but imagine your spouse, your mom, your whoever getting put it on a machine, and now the doctors are asking you, like, what do you want to do? Do you want us to keep her on life support? Do you want us to keep her? And I told that, that I think the biggest tragedy is not knowing. Imagine Ashleigh having no idea what my wishes are, and now she decides to pull the plug and wonders for the next 10 years, did I make the right choice? Whereas if that's on paper, like, hey, these are Joe's wishes, I think that would give her a level of peace and comfort, and knowing that she made the right decision and not, what ifing for the next 5, 10, 20 years. So like I said, even if you're perfectly healthy, have a will, if only to express your final wishes,
Yeah.
And I think to prevent any potential disagreement from your family too. I think it's so great just to have something that says, this is what he wants. And then, and there it is in black and white.
I think it was hard when this first came out. It was hard for the first 15 years of my Army career, I was not married, and so my mom was my next of kin and my decision maker and my this, that, and the other. And so if anything, I have 2 combat deployments to Afghanistan and 1 to Iraq. So if anything were to happen to where I was on a machine, that would have been my mom's decision. And I think when I got married and then got diagnosed with this, we were having that conversation, and my mom, I'll never forget, she asked me, she goes, God, like, I don't know, what if that time comes and like, me and Ashleigh are in disagree on something, like whether to pull the plug and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, look, Ashleigh's my wife. She's the decision maker now, and I am going to have a will that she is going to follow, right? So this is not Ashleigh's decision per se. It is my decision, And I think it was a little bit hard for my mom to let go of being the decision maker for her child, like that. And that's now in the hands of my wife, When she says, it'll help dispel any disagreements between family members, whatever decision Ashleigh makes, she can say, hey, this is Joe's wishes, and
as moms, our first instinct is always to care and protect for our babies. Yeah. And it doesn't matter if our baby is 1 or if our baby is 38. And it's just such a unique position because this goes against the natural order of things.
Yeah.
Right? No 34-year-old should have to be a caregiver and a decision maker for her husband. And I think, there is probably no greater tragedy than a parent bearing their child. That's just something that's not supposed to happen. Right. But I think with communication ahead of time, you can really kind of pave the road to be a little smoother. Mm-hmm. And I think just getting all on the same page and having those difficult conversations will make the future so much easier.
Learning from your relative's tragedy of what's important, how to navigate grief and loss and all these things, it almost feels like you are paving the way in your own tragedy for other people. Like even anyone who's listening to this, who's on the fence or like doesn't think about getting life insurance, thinking about all these things that who in a healthy state in their 20s, 30s, 40s wants to think about this. No, you're not going to take a Saturday and instead of doing something fun, you're going to sit down and think about like, what do I want to be buried in? We're not going to naturally gravitate towards that. So I think in a way, you facing this hardship is fortunately or unfortunately like allowing other people to learn from that and to lead their lives with a little bit more intention and a little bit more legacy, orientation. So thank you for being intentional in your own lives and then inspiring others to do so. And I'm speaking that like in advance, as we're recording, I just know that when this comes out and whenever someone listens to it, that they are going to act on this.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's truly our hope.
Yeah.
We do hope that we can be of help to others and that can provide some comfort to us and some good that can result from it. And we're really thankful for Inheritance of Hope for helping us share our story.
Yeah.
And reach others and leave a tribute for our kids mainly.
And also give advice like it's FDA proven that being a 49ers fan could help you live long. So
and good looking, that helps too.
And so if it's anything that if you're listening to this podcast, anything I can leave you with, it's go Niners, all right?
Yes. So, if you're looking for a new football team.
Yeah. FDA proven to help you live longer and look better. Don't Google that. Just roll with it. All right.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, I think one thing to say too is Inheritance of Hope. We talk a lot about joy in trials, joy in sorrows, joy in terminal illness.
Yeah.
And I think you exemplify that so much. Like you just exude life and joy in the midst of something that might be like completely defeating.
Do you ever feel scared or worried when you're navigating hard times? You are not alone. You can just show up for 1 hour each week to listen to Consider It Pure Joy, a book written by Inheritance of Hope's co-founder, Kristen Milligan, and read aloud by Kristen's youngest daughter, Rebecca. You will be encouraged, and you will learn Kristen's strategy for finding hope and joy through some of the hardest struggles in life. You will also learn that you are God's favorite. If you don't believe it, then just show up on Mondays starting August 11th and listen along with a few of God's other favorites. Everyone who attends will receive a free copy of Kristen's book, Consider It Pure Joy. This opportunity is for anyone, so don't miss it. Starting Monday, August 11th, from 11 a.m. to noon Eastern Time on Zoom. Sign up today at inheritanceofhope.org/justshowup. See you there.
And I don't know like how much work that you've done to maybe move past that, or maybe it's something that's attention every single day of like what side is going to win. And I'm choosing to be joyful in this when I want to like bury my head in the sand. But that is something that we almost preach, like that is possible. And I think you do that very well.
Yeah. We sometimes force the joy. Force the joy. And I think in the midst of all of this, that's something that the kids are great at inspiring us to do, is even when, we feel like we could just stay in bed and cry and say, why me? We get up every day for our kids. They're literally our reason. And so we force the joy by, going out of the house, going to the beach. We do a gratitude journal at dinner every night. And it is amazing what our 3-year-old is grateful for. Such quality answers from that one. Yeah, and I've heard other people do a joy jar where they just write down, fun things that would kind of lift the mood of the family. And when things seem heavy, they're like, okay, we're going to get something from the joy jar. But and luckily, we have Joe, who is the epitome of joy.
Very serious all the time. Never joking.
And we really lean into that as a couple and as a family. That's what gets us through.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is that the kids, especially if you have young kids, like we have a 1.5 and a 3.5-year-old, the kids can sense the tension and the
stress.
When dad got hospitalized, I didn't get to see the kids for a few days. And then, that was hard on them, not being able to see dad every day. And they're wondering where dad's at. And, and Ashleigh did a really good job of trying not to associate the doctor with a negative connotation. Because, a couple months ago, I developed kidney issue. And so I got hospitalized. And so Ashleigh did a really good job of trying her best to not associate every time, because I got to go to the doctor all the time. I got to get blood draws and I'll be home in an hour, But if the kids keep hearing dad's going to the doctor and dad doesn't come home for a few nights, they're going to start going, oh, dad's going to the doctor. Oh no, oh no, oh no. And so we've been kind of like, oh, dad's going to the doctor today. The doctor's just going to check him out. We're talking to a 1 and a 3-year-old. But yeah, the kids feel the tension. They feel the stress. My 3.5-year-old probably doesn't fully understand what cancer is or what's going on, but he feels the tension and the stress, and it stresses him out sometimes, and sometimes he acts out. And so we've been trying to make it as minimal impact on the kids as possible, right? And so dad goes to the doctor, okay, well, then we'll come home and we'll go to the beach or something, right. We'll try not to. Ashleigh's been really, really good about not setting up a negative association with the word doctor or hospital or something like that.
Yeah, and we try and just be honest with them as much as we can, using obviously preschool and toddler words, and they're so resilient. Kids are so incredibly resilient. I was so worried after Joe's craniotomy, what they were going to think about what the side of his head looked like. And I spent days, trying to think, what am I going to tell him? What are we going to, what questions is he going to have? And so Joe came home from the surgery and we were like, okay, buddy, daddy's home from his surgery. We want to show you what his head looks like now. And our 3-year-old looks at it and he goes, oh, it kind of looks like a box. And then he went back to
It's literally like a like a square.
and he was like, oh, okay, cool. And now that's daddy's box.
Daddy's box. And he knows like that's where the cancer is.
Yeah.
And that's, so he at 3.5, like I said, he doesn't fully understand what cancer is, and we've bought books, and Ashleigh's done a lot of research on using age appropriate language to explain to obviously not our 1.5-year-old, but our 3.5-year-old about cancer. So if you have young kids, make sure you research books and methods on talking to them in age appropriate ways. Because he's gonna know something's going on. There's no point in hiding it or trying to sugarcoat it. But there is a way to talk to them in a way to help them understand at their age what dad or mom is going through.
Yeah, I'm a certified child life specialist, actually. So I used to work in the hospital to explain medical procedures to kids and all that stuff. And we always were like, if you're taking your kid to go to get surgery, do not say you're taking them to Disneyland and then you show up. Like, that is not a way to build trust. So like saying things truthfully in age appropriate ways, like that is going to help them so much because they pick up on a lot more than we think.
They are so incredibly smart. They're so incredibly smart. And we've we've met people in this space who have said, every family handles it different, but who have said, oh, we've chosen not to talk to our kids about this. And deep down, I'm like, they know. Yeah. They know that they may not know exactly, but they know that something is going on. And we've found that, that the whole family just seems kind of more at ease when we're just honest and when we talk about it. And, not often. We just live our normal lives for the most part. Yeah. But the door is open. And I hope that, our kiddo knows that he can ask questions and talk.
Yeah, Ashleigh's been really good about that too. She'll ask him like, "Hey, bud, do you have any questions about Daddy's cancer?" And he usually doesn't. He knows that Dad has cancer and that cancer makes you sick. And this is Daddy's box. That's where the cancer is. And that's kind of his 3.5-year-old understanding. She's really good about, hey, do you have any questions? If you do, like, feel free to ask anytime.
Yeah, because if they are picking up on things and you're not telling them, their heads are kind of filling in the blanks.
Exactly.
And that's usually incorrect and filled with a lot of fear and misconception.
Yeah.
So that's why we've been intentional, especially Ashleigh being that school counselor background for elementary kids. We're trying to help him through this in a 3.5-year-old way,
I'll never forget the first time that our 3-year-old got sick after Joe's diagnosis. He had, just like a cold, a flu. And he asked me, like, Mom, do I have cancer? And I hadn't even thought, like, in his brain, like, he just associated cancer and being sick is the same thing. And so then it prompted a whole discussion of like, no, when me or you or your sister get sick, we get better. But, Daddy is a different type of sick and, we don't have cancer. And so the things that their minds think about and come up with. And like you said, if they don't know, they just fill in the blank themselves is truly amazing what their little brains do.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, we always wrap up every podcast episode by asking each guest who has left an impact on your life, like whose legacy, whether in life or death, has just really stuck with you in a way that you kind of still carry with you today.
That's a good question. Do you want to go first?
No.
Whose legacy? Would probably pick my grandma. My grandma left an incredible legacy for me. She went through infertility back in the early 60s, and then her and I connected over that. And even though our experiences as far as medical were very different, a lot of those feelings were still the same. And she became a big support person to me during Joe and I's infertility journey. She instilled the love of reading for me. And I didn't know it at the time, but my grandma was an incredibly devoted caretaker to my great grandma, her mom, who had Alzheimer's. And she cared for her for 20 years and was just incredible. And I often kind of unknowingly find myself sort of thinking about her and her devotion and just her attitude now that I've kind of stepped into this caregiver role for Joe. And so she's still having that lasting impact on me even now, years after her passing.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
For me, I would say my Uncle Dave, which is my cousin Amy's dad. He's the one that passed away. I was in middle school when he passed away. I think I was in 6th grade or so. But my dad wasn't around a lot when I was growing up. He was in and out of jail, and even when he was out of jail, he really wasn't around to be a dad. So his brother, my Uncle Dave, stepped up into that father role. Nobody asked him to, he didn't have to, but he stepped up into that father role for me, and he would take me out and pick me up and bring me to his cabin up in Lake Berryessa and all the time. And I learned a lot about how to be a man from him, and what masculinity means, and how to be a protector and a provider for your family, and things like that. And so he passed away when I was in 6th grade, and I still kind of model the man that I am today and the man that I'm trying to raise David to become off of what I learned from him growing up. And so I think of all the people who have had the biggest impact in my life, it was my Uncle Dave, because, he's the one that taught me, even though I was young when he passed, like the lessons that he taught me have really impacted the man that I became, the man that I'm trying to raise David to be. And that's my Uncle Dave.
That's also beautiful. And it makes me think of your legacy song, which before this call was all I knew of you, But even in the song, it is talking about like instilling these values and who you want your kids to be. And just knowing that like you didn't come up with these things. Mm-hmm. You inherited them, or you saw it modeled from people before you. Yeah. So it's just really beautiful to like look behind and look forward and kind of see the chain, and like we're all linking hands and what you've passed on.
Yeah. I have goosebumps because I feel like that's perfectly sums up our legacy song. Is it's looking behind, but it's also looking forward.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for just chatting with me and sharing your story. I'm glad that I know more about you now than just the legacy song. And this was a real blessing, and I think I'm better because of it.
Oh, so thank you, Ellie. It was great.
It was great talking to you.
Yeah.
It was a good chat.
Hey, little hands, reach out for mine. It's time to say our amens. Sweet Stelly, Belly, and Day Day. Mama and Dad'll love you, and yes, we'll pray for Sonny the kitty. Yep, our life is pretty amazing. Family hugs and daily gratitude. Alexa, tell us, did the Niners win or lose? Through the highs and lows, we'll keep standing Army strong, holding to our faith and always loving God. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, even when the road feels torn apart. Lean not on what your eyes can see. Keep walking forward, He will lead. Beach days, bedtime stories, and night songs. Forever, ever, our love keeps going strong. From Hawaii shores to life in Germany, 27 countries, a lifetime of memory. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, even when the road feels torn apart. Lean not on what your eyes can see. Keep walking forward, He will lead. David, dream your time to fly is coming soon. Astronaut, police, or fire, a doctor on the moon. Stella, keep laughing, cuddling, and shining bright. You bring the world God's love and warmth and light. Be kind, respectful, hold on to Jesus. Never forget the love that always surrounds us.